Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. We're going to start the second part of our session today, and I'll bring up the PowerPoint here so we know what we're going to be talking about. So we did a session earlier, just about 5 minutes ago, calling Honoring Our Mothers, Warriors, Innovators, and Healers. And now we're going to move on to part 2, and we're going to do a whole series of things. Hi, Catherine. Have you just joined? Can you hear us? Let me admit her. We have a incredible mother joining us today. Hi, Catherine. Are you here? Catherine? Hello? Catherine, are you there? Jen, I think she's having something with her sound, okay? So let me just start here. But now we're going to talk about how states profit, how there's $1 trillion industry. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Catherine? Jen, I think she's got something with her voice, with her sound. Jen, let her just call me on the phone. She's got something going on, okay? Because I don't want to waste time on technical stuff. But today we're going to really talk about something fundamentally having to do with a set of things that are going on with how the state is actually getting involved in destroying families. And I just heard about this, and I've put together, it's one of the parts of a initial document that we're putting together, but we're gonna have 2 mothers calling in to share with us what's going on. So one of them is, hey, Jen. Catherine, can you hear us? Hello? Catherine? Hey, Jen, can you just tell her to call me on my phone, because this is going to become frustrating.
I did.
Okay. But what we're going to talk about is an entire process, which is how states are profiting $1 trillion per year. So the federal government is actually giving money to state governments to take kids away from families. It's going to seem quite extraordinary, but that's what's going on. And I just have been putting together the pieces. So I'm going to share with you how the government is actually incentivized to do that. Then we have 2 mothers who've experienced this. One is a woman called Catherine, another one is called Pamela, both in Massachusetts here. And this is occurring in every state. But our federal government in the United States is literally spending about $1 trillion in dole outs that they give to essentially support this process of taking kids away from their families. And I'm going to walk you through that. So what I want to do first is to share with you that this is an example of what happens when the government gets involved, that they say that they want to help you. Just like in the vaccine movement. Oh, we're going to come help you. We're going to do quote unquote vaccine safety. That's what the Kennedys want to do. We're going to mandate vaccines. So one Kennedy wants to do it, slapping you on this side, and the other one wants to act as though he's going to do it nice for you. Regardless, the government should not be involved in our lives, particularly our health and all these kinds of things, because it makes it monopolies. You start creating corrupt environments where people are actually making money off that corruption. Massachusetts, for example, was rated the top 10 most corrupt, states in the entire United States, and has the worst infrastructure, the top 3 worst infrastructure. That is what Massachusetts is about. And what I want to share with you here is how all of this works. And I just put this together. So it's new to me, but I want to educate you on it. Sometimes when I take in new information, I'm able to distill it in such a way that all of you can appreciate it. So let me start by talking about this. So what it turns out is that the government gets involved in families' lives. Every family has different issues going on, husbands and wives or kids. Well, the government has been incentivized like vultures sitting there to watch what's going on. Hey, Jen, is she going to be joining me? Is she going to call me or no?
She says it's going right to your voicemail.
Yeah. Let me turn off my do not disturb. Have her try again. 1 second. So now it should be able to come in. Okay. Tell her to do that because I had my do not disturb on. But the government is being incentivized at all different levels to wait when there's a family disturbance, to swoop in, to steal the kids, hold them for up to a year, and they get funding for that. So let me repeat again. So, hey, Catherine, I'm going to have you on. I'll bring you in shortly. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to have you on mute until then. So what is, actually, I'm going to keep you, you can listen in, Catherine. I'm just explaining the process. So what's happening is the government is being incentivized at all the state levels, the legislature, the judicial, the executive branch. Everyone's getting a little piece of the action when the state comes in and takes a kid away from the parents. It's quite extraordinary. And when you really start thinking about this, it really wants to make you extreme. It should get you angry, but more important, you'll see when these people say, oh, we want to help you. By the way, Jen, is the sound okay now? Jennifer?
Yes, you're good.
Okay. So what's happening is there's a financial incentive, but let's walk you through, and Catherine's listening, and she's the one who shared this with me. I'm going to walk you through the theoretical framework of how this works. Then I'm going to walk you through the economics, and then I'm going to we're going to have call in with Catherine and Pamela, definitely with Catherine, maybe Pamela can join us. And then we're going to take call-ins if you're in Massachusetts or elsewhere. So let me start this here to really show you what this process works. I have a little flow chart, the engineer in me, okay? So this is what happens. Let's say you're a parent and something is going on with some incident in your family with your kids. Well, somebody can report the neglect or abuse to, in Massachusetts, it's called the Department of Children Family, DCF. It's part of what's called Child Protective Services. So let's say you have your husband or your estranged husband or someone, some next door neighbor or whatever, they hear something in your family, someone calls up the department of essentially Children and Family, DCF, or Child Protective Services, DCF. So they call them. What then happens is when they get that phone call, a decision is made. Is it emergency or is it, sort of something just not that emergency? If it's emergency, an investigation occurs. Police officers, emergency responders are sent to your home. Now, the rule is, Catherine will share this, you don't have to let them in, but most people don't know this, that they let these people in. So they come over to your family, and that's what I have this little dot here. You don't have to let them in, but most people are in such a situation, police knocking on their door, the emergency responders, that's the emergency path. They let them in. The other thing, it's a normal situation, which means it's not, people think it's an emergency situation. A caseworker shows up, okay? So now you have someone coming into your home. You have an incident taking place in the emergency or non-emergency situation. And these people, the state is going to determine if this is danger. They're going to determine. And one is they say, well, there's no danger. And then they put you on what's called an action plan, and they keep your case open for 6 months, and they're watching and monitoring you and your family. That's case one. If they determine it's an emergency, Catherine will talk about this, what happened to her. Then now they determine it's an emergency. And what they do in that case is they take away your child. So they remove the child from your home. Your child is removed, taken away by police, and the child is first taken to a doctor or hospital to review. Okay? And then after that, the child is sent to another place. So your child is taken away. You don't know what's going on. And then the child is typically taken to an intermediary, what they call a respite home, not to a full foster care home, but an intermediary home that is paid for by the state. So the child is there. And now at that point, you have 3 business days where a lawyer is appointed by the state. So you get a lawyer, and the child is at the respite home. You haven't seen your kids up to 72 hours. And then a hearing is held. Now, when that hearing is held, on the date of the hearing, some of the lawyers, as you'll see, Catherine will say, well, you should really not do the hearing because you could get really screwed. So waive your rights to the hearing. This kind of gamesmanship. Or you have the hearing. So regardless of whatever occurs, over here, a caseworker is assigned. So a caseworker is assigned to you, and you have to wait to hear from the caseworker. So you've gotten someone assigned, XYZ person, and you're just waiting and waiting. And sometimes people don't hear for weeks or even many, many days. Finally, the caseworker calls you. Again, remember, you don't know where your kid is. You haven't spoken to your kid. Your kid's been separated from you, literally been taken away from you. And then the caseworker gives you what you have to do, okay? And then there's no guarantees that you're ever going to get your kid back. And they give you what's called an action plan. You have to do ba, 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 ba. It's not like you have any say in it. The state is telling you must do this, 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 and maybe you'll get your kid back. And there's no timeline on that. And the parents, after this, after some period of time that occurs, you get to see your kid at the DCS office for 1 hour. And this is hopefully after about 3 to 4, 5, 6 days. And then you're asked to do the action plan. And in the case of Catherine, she got to see her kid 1 hour per week. So your kid's in a foster home, and 1 hour per week you're getting to see your kid. And sometimes they'll do what's called a 6-week review. And at that 6-week review, you don't get to see your kid. It's you, the DCF caseworker, the foster care, the attorneys. It's like a bunch of attorneys in a room. A bunch of lawyers are there billing and making money on this. You don't get to see your kid. You've gotten to see your kid maybe 1 hour per week. Now that could go on for about 3 months. Then after 3 months, they have another hearing. It's all uncertain whether you're going to get your kid back. Then you do the action plan, and another hearing, action plan, hearing, action plan. Maybe you get your kids, maybe you don't. But the typical thing is this goes on for about 1 year. Okay, this is the norm. So your kids have been ripped away from you. You don't see your kids. You don't really know what's going on. Lawyers are making money off of this. You are sitting there in an uncertain times, worried as hell, and the foster care parents are being paid. So what are the economics? And this is what now I'm going to give you the high level economics. It even gets even more. I mean, there's a lot of details here, but I've distilled this down for you. This is what happens. Here's the economics. It's a money making enterprise. So let me tell you this. Regulations. The people like the liberal Democrats, like the Kennedys and the Clintons. By the way, Clinton was involved in creating this. Okay? They make it appear as though they're helping the kids. They always brand it safe, helping the safety of the kids. But it's a not billion, not million, multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's bigger. This is bigger than the defense industry. Let me repeat. This industry is bigger than the defense budget. And you're going to see that. So I'm going to share with you how this actually works. Okay? So first of all, the executive office, the governor's office makes money. The Office of Accountability makes money. The judiciary makes money. The court staff, court clerk, judges, everyone's billing it out. The legislature, particularly the lobbying groups, Planned Parenthood, teaching unions, everyone's making money off your kids being taken from your home. Okay? So this is a statistic I want to share. This is just one case study, just Massachusetts 2016. 78% of the kids who were taken away, the cases, were opened and closed, which was unfounded. That means nothing really happened. The parents didn't do anything. Remember, anyone can call. Your kids can get taken away in up to a year. But nearly 80% of the cases were found that the parents had done nothing wrong. Let me repeat that. It was found that the parents had done nothing wrong. And the federal government, which means the United States federal government, gives each state money. So in Massachusetts, if it's a normal kid, $5,000 per kid per month for foster care is given to the state, $10,000 per kid if there's disabled. So if you work out the numbers in 2016, 437,000 kids were taken away from their families. Nearly 500,000 kids in 1 year, 2016 alone, 437,000 kids. Now, this is a conservative estimate. If you multiply that $5,000, I'm going to be very conservative because it could be more, times 437,000 kids divided by 12. That's about $182 million per month. That's how much just in one state. So the state, the United States federal government, our tax dollars send $182 million per month to Massachusetts, all the leeches and all the people there. It's about 2.1 billion per year. That's just one state, okay? And this is just conservative. This is only for one stream of revenue. There's a whole bunch of others. So I'm being very, very, very conservative. Now, of that $5,000 per month, look how the breakout is. Only 30% goes to the foster care. The other 70% goes to all the swamp, the judiciary, the court staff, the DA's office, and the various interest groups. I hope you're getting this. That's where the money flows. This is a money-making enterprise. And to give you a history of this, Mondale, the liberal Democrat who ran against Reagan in 1974, is the one who created it. It was called the Child Abuse Prevention Act. Then crooked Hillary came in, who, by the way, supports Monsanto, who supports Big Pharma, who wants mandatory vaccinations, who Robert Kennedy endorsed not once, 3 times, who his nephew is supporting the Clinton, the Clinton clan here, okay? Hillary Clinton took that 1974 act and made it even more draconian. It was called the 1997 Adoption Safe Family Act. Always sounds good, Safe Family Act. And what they did was they even made it more stringent. One size fits all. Everyone, before at least CAPTA, was somewhat more unique. They looked at the unique circumstances so everyone didn't get screwed. This was one size fit all model. Unique conditions were not accounted for, draconian. That's why you have these economics. This was a money-making tool, and this is what the end result is. This is costing, just in 2019 alone, $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Let me repeat that. $1 trillion was dispersed by the federal government to all the states for taking kids out of their home and separating families. Remember, in Massachusetts, 78% were unfounded claims. And it gets even more interesting when you compare it where it's headed. In 2020, we're going for 1.2 trillion. This is literally about 50% more than the entire defense budget. The defense budget for 2020 is going to be 750 billion. We're going to be at 1.2 trillion for 2020. That's what we're talking about. This is not a small amount. This is a racket. And as you can see, when I went back to this numbers here, 78% were opened and closed. There were unfounded claims. Okay, 20% there was an issue. But the bottom line is this is a money-making enterprise. Let me bring Catherine on. Catherine, how are you? Catherine, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Catherine, can you share with everyone? We have about 2,000, maybe 1,500 people listening worldwide. Maybe you can share with us the story in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes before we bring in Pamela. What is going on? What happened with your family? If you're as much as you can share, it'd be great.
Okay, so
you got to speak a little bit louder because your voice is a little bit low.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so my case is still open now, so I don't know if there'll be any repercussions for me speaking about it, but basically in November 2018, my son got a spanking from me and his dad. It wasn't one more than the other, and he had a bruise on his bum. He was 4 years old. He went to daycare, and the daycare teacher reported it, and DCF came and took my 4-year-old son and my 2-year-old daughter that same day. When they first took them, we didn't see them for a whole 12 days. There was no contact made whatsoever for the first 12 days. And then over in the course of the next 5 months, we only saw them for 1 hour per week. We missed Christmas with them. Our Christmas was an hour and a half on Christmas Eve. That's all we got. And the whole time they were begging their foster mother to come home. They had lost weight. They looked sick. It was awful. They definitely have PTSD from it. We ended up getting them back after 5 months. But, and the sick part is that everybody involved says that 5 months was really fast. Everybody was so shocked that it happened so fast.
So 1 second, Catherine, you didn't get your kids back for 5 months. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. So 5 months, if you look at the numbers, how many kids were there? 1 or 2?
2.
So 5 months, that's $10,000, at least 10,000, right? In the most conservative case. So someone got $50,000, probably to $100,000 from that.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, my son was 4 and my daughter was 2. So I know that there's different prices for certain ages. And luckily, we were actually on the luckier side. Most people, they don't know who the foster parents are, or a lot of times siblings get separated. We were lucky enough that somebody that worked at their daycare actually fostered them. So we knew who they were with, and we know that they were safe the whole time. And they most likely were not abused while they were gone. But there were a few nights that we will never know where they were. And we got them back after 5 months, and we were told how lucky we were. Everybody was in shock that we got them back so fast. And and that was in March of 2019. So we've had them back for over a year now, and the case is still open because they pretty much have just been lingering around to try to find something else, I think, to keep the case open for.
So do they get money? But so when the case, so you got your kids back, but there must be an incentive to keep the case open. Is that right, Catherine?
I'm sure there is. I don't know exactly. That's why I wanted Pamela to talk to you too, because I don't know how the incentives work.
Yeah. So why don't we have Pamela call into me and I'll conference her in. So by the way, we've opened up our phone lines too. We have a Zoom call. If people want to call in, you can go to shivaforsenate.com/call-in. Jen, maybe you can post that. shivaforsenate.com/call-in. We've set up a Zoom number. You can call in and we'll also bring you in on the call-in. Okay. So please call in because you can ask questions to Catherine or Pamela, and we're waiting for Pamela to call in. But what you're fundamentally looking at as Pamela's calling in is that this is a industry. It's bigger than the defense industry, right, Catherine? That's what Pamela was sharing with us.
Yes.
The defense budget of the United States is this is what's shocking. The defense budget of the United States is $750 billion. That's what Trump wants in 2020. And the budget of this is 1.2 trillion. Now, yes. And Catherine, I don't think any of the liberal Democrats even want to discuss this. I haven't seen any, right? I haven't seen the Kennedys discuss this. I haven't seen Hillary Clinton.
I sent letters. I tried calling Charlie Baker, Marty Walsh, Elizabeth Warren. I tried contacting the news.
Yeah. Look, this is why we need people, one of us, fighting. Because whenever you start exposing that, particularly the liberal elite, the Clintons, the Kennedys, they do big lies, or the other thing, Catherine, looks like they do is silence, right? Either they lie and they try to defame you, or they go into silence mode.
Yes.
So you try to reach Elizabeth Warren and Baker. Did you try to reach Joe Kennedy? You should try to call him, see what he says.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Remember, the Kennedys are big Clinton supporters. And as you go back here, what you find is that right here, what do you see? Hillary Clinton is the one who built this entire thing. She was the architect. Hillary Clinton was the architect. Someone just wrote in and they said, my son has been put on Ritalin since being in foster care. Melanie Koski. That's horrible. So what you have is the kids are ripped away. And this is what happens. This is called fascism. When the government thinks that they know better than mothers. That's what we're talking about. Nick Rivera just wrote, I don't know, the child abusing DCM system gets more than, yes, Nick, that's what I just found out. This is what you're looking at. So that means if you take all the money that the United States government has dispersed to the states, it's $1.1 trillion in 2019, and it's headed for $1.2 trillion. This is what they call social services. This also, go ahead, Catherine.
Sorry, this is not relevant to the money, but they also tried to split up the family. They gave me and my kid's father separate lawyers, and they tried to get me to go against him.
Explain that. How did they try to get you to go against the father?
So in the beginning, when I was going down to the office every day because nobody was calling me and nobody was letting me know what was happening, I just kept showing up there asking them, like, what do I do next? What do I have to do? How do I get my kids back? Nobody's telling me anything. And the DCF supervisor actually came and she brought me into a conference room and kind of tried to coerce me into saying the words, he abused my children. It's like she was trying to drag those words out of me as to get like a statement from me.
And what was her intention in doing that, Catherine, to say that your husband abused the kids? What was her goal?
Because then they can press criminal charges on him for child abuse and arrest him.
I say. Yeah, so what you're seeing is they not only wanted to take your kids away, but they also wanted to separate your husband from you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's quite extraordinary what is going on. I can tell you from my personal situation, I had an incident take place where I did nothing wrong. And the cops came in and they always take the man away. And the woman was trying to do a holdup on me. She said all sorts of things, but it should never have escalated to that. But the state came in and got advantage of doing that. And they actually do it that when there's wrongdoing actually done, they always try to blame the man, particularly in Massachusetts. It's quite interesting.
Right. And actually, the first day that I met my lawyer, which was 2 days after my kids were taken, when I went in for the first meeting with my lawyer, her first question to me was, so are we going to include Dad, or are we going to get rid of him?
What do you mean, are we going to get rid of him? Explain.
Are we kicking him out and like basically exiting him from the family and going on as just me in this fight alone?
I say. Well, Catherine, we have a call coming in. Let me take this caller. Hello. Hello, how are you? Can you say your name and what question you have? Hello? 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 Huh. Let me unmute all. Hello, are you there? Hello? Not sure what's going on here. Let's see. I may have to. Huh. I'm not sure. Whoever's calling in, can you unmute yourself, please? Can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, we'll see if someone's going to call in. We have someone here, but they're not talking, so we'll wait. But anyway, hey, Jen, if you're listening, maybe there's something wrong with the Zoom. Maybe you can make it not be phone, Jen, but something's wrong with this. Let me just make the video also. Hello? Hello, someone there? Huh. We're not getting them here. Okay. Well, go ahead, Catherine. Keep going. Catherine, so when you didn't see your kids for how many days?
When they first took them, it was 12 days.
And so were you going every day? I mean, how did you feel when all this was going on? Well, I mean, this sounds crazy.
Yeah, I was calling them nonstop. I was going there. I went there every day for maybe 4 or 5 days straight until my lawyer told me that I need to calm down or they're going to try to charge me with harassment. And I pretty much was just being shrugged off. I was being treated like I was no good. The way that they looked at me, it was just so degrading and disgusting. You know, I mean, like, you know, I'm not perfect, but I'm a good parent, and you know, we work full time. Like, you know, we're decent people. We had a good home for our kids. And a lot better than most.
How is it right now, Catherine? I mean, are you under fear? Do you always feel like it's in a weird situation now?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I've said, I got actually a decent worker. My worker is actually a decent-hearted person, and I got lucky with that too. But there's always that fear because they never go away.
What do you mean? What do you mean they never go away?
Like, well, I mean, for instance, right now I've had my kids back for over a year and they're still lingering. My case is still open. It's closed in court, but I still have a clinical case open with DCF.
And what does that mean? It's still open.
So we still have to have a visit every month with the DCF caseworker just to check in and see how things are going.
Mm-hmm. By the way, anyone who wants to call in, try again. I just did a setting change so you can try again. If you go to shivaforsenate.com/call-in, Jen, can you publish the phone number there too with the passcode? Okay, here's someone coming. Let's see if they can hear us. Hello, can you hear us? Hello? 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 All right. If you're just called in, please unmute yourself so you can talk to us on the phone. We don't hear you. Okay, we'll wait if they can say anything. Jen, maybe you can tell these people to unmute themselves. So is Pamela going to join us, Catherine?
I haven't spoken to her. I think that Catherine Ignati was in touch with her.
Okay. All right. So we have someone logged in, but let me see why we can't hear them. Mute audio, unmute. Okay. So someone just called in, but we can't hear them for some reason. I'm not sure why, but we're not able to hear them. We have everything turned on. I'm going to unmute everyone, but we're not able to hear them. Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm looking through the comments on the live on Facebook, and somebody said that leaving a bruise on a child is very aggressive and ineffective parenting, which I do agree. But there are other ways to work on the situation and to figure out how to help the family than to remove the kids from the home.
Yeah, so this is an interesting discussion, this is, I guess, a fundamental issue, right? It's a very interesting discussion, right? Because people have disagreements in families, which I assume, right? So now when this process acts, it looks like you have 3 people involved in a family unit, that the government is now part of your family. That's what you fundamentally said. And I think their discussion on this as well, someone could be getting hurt, right? I think someone else is joining us. Jen, is that you testing? Jen, is that you? Hello? Someone else just joined us. Hello? Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so someone else is joining us. By the way, whoever is joining us, please turn down the background noise so we don't hear the thing coming in.
Hi, Dr. Shiva. This is Pradeep.
Okay, Pradeep, so do you have a question? Why don't you ask one of your questions? We have Pradeep Yogi calling. Pradeep, where are you from, and why don't you tell us what you want to ask?
Yes, I'm from Los Angeles. Thank you for taking up this topic. Really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah.
Because I did not know that it's $1 trillion business, but I have heard firsthand a lot of horror stories of children being abused in foster families. Apparently, the system rewards foster families to provide mental health drugging, psych drugging. And oftentimes it's multiple drugs that goes to these kids. It's socialized care of a child, and it's just unfortunate that we have such a system and that its budget is bigger than our defense. I would ask you as to what you think might be a solution or an alternative for a system like this.
Yeah, so Pradeep, what is the alternate, right? I can tell you this is a fundamental difference, Pradeep, is do we go to a government by the people where we recognize that things come bottoms up or top down? So this is a philosophical question, Pradeep, okay? Yeah. And this is why, getting back to why I filed the lawsuit against, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, if you look at him, and the liberal Democrats are fundamentally of the opinion they know better, and they're very, very clever. They always sell it as something that they're doing. Now, Mr. Kennedy is pro-vaccine. He's pro-government policies, and then they frame it in vaccine safety, okay? If you look at what Hillary Clinton called this, I want to bring this word here, Adoption Safe Family Act. Did you see that word safety? Yeah. So to me, the word safety is a trigger word for the government is going to come involved, okay? Yeah. And this is what we need to recognize, that the Kennedys and the liberal Democrats and the liberal elite fundamentally believe that they know better than you and I, that they could come in between you and your wife. They could come in between in every aspect of you because of quote unquote safety. And based on that, once you go down that path, you essentially, and you allow the state in, what you're fundamentally saying, we're not going to come up with any other innovative solutions, right? There must be many other solutions. In traditional times, there was always the public square where people had conversations, where we didn't isolate people into these into these environments where people were in these little nuclear families and no one had friendships. No one could talk about these things. So we've created a world right now where we've essentially created little steam kettles where parents are under massive amounts of pressure in terms of surviving to make money, 2 parents working, or they can't make money. Think about what's going on right now with this whole social isolation. The amount of pressure that's putting on families, 32 million people out of work, people having been forced to be socially isolated. So the government creates these conditions where people are brutalized in some way, Pradeep, right? They're not living in natural conditions of openness, social connections, etc. So I would argue that the real solution is going to emerge bottoms up, where we create methods and incentives for people to be able to reach out, have friendships of connection, community. Look, in the old times, it was your churches, right? It was communities. A friend, one of my very close friends was saying if someone was suffering down the street and people knew, the community would get together, right? They would go try to figure out what was appropriate for those people. It wasn't top down. And when you go down the top down model, what you end up happening is this, because we know Massachusetts is one of the most corrupt states. So now there's an incentive to support corruption. So I can tell you philosophically, we have to go back to bottoms up thinking. It can't be top down.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Good question.
Thanks.
Let me bring the next person in. By the way, people, if you're calling, please go to shivaforsenate.com/call-in. And then let me bring this other person. We have someone calling. Hi, how are you? Hello?
Good, Shiva, how are you?
Oh, good.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Where are you from? And are you from California? And we still have Catherine on the call. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Philadelphia, actually, and I currently live in LA. I've been here about 7 years now.
Okay, so tell us, what do you think about this, what Catherine just shared with us?
Yeah, so I was listening, and then I decided to contact Jennifer to kind of get in the call really fast. So I didn't hear the total ending of it because I'm doing everything on my phone, so I apologize. But I just wanted to say that I dealt with a kind of similar issue as her, but not really. I had my son in 2018, and I took him to the doctors 10 days later, because actually I had a home birth, and I took him 10 days later to the doctor, and I kindly declined the vaccine for him, and the next day Child Protective Services was knocking on my door.
Okay, so let me just summarize for everyone. So you had your child at home by yourself.
Yeah.
Then you took him to the doctor, and then you didn't want to vaccinate. And then what? Few days later, how many days later did Child Protective Services show up at your door?
It was the next day after I went to the doctor. Literally the next day. I had my son on December the 30th. I took him to the doctors on January the 9th. Child Protective Services was at my door January the 10th.
Oh, okay, so January 9th and January 10th. Yeah. So by the way, I'm sharing the diagram here. So someone, according to what Catherine shared, called Child Protective Services, and then someone knocked on your door. So this is sort of almost like a Gestapo model, right? Anyone can call and anyone can show up. Now, did you know that you didn't have to let him in your house, or did you let him in your house, or what happened?
I didn't know. The woman that came to my door was very good at what she did. She kind of backed me into my apartment, and I really didn't know what was going on.
What do you mean backed you into your apartment? What do you mean backed you into your apartment?
She caught me off guard, and while she was asking me questions, I was, kind of backing up, like, whoa, what's going on? And she was kind of inviting herself into my house, but I didn't know all of my rights at that time. That's what the issue was. So I did then tell her to come in and sit down. And that's when she told me that my husband and I had to be in separate rooms, and she basically interrogated me in my living room of my house and asked me a lot of questions about my home birth,
unbelievable,
and et cetera. And it was not good at all.
So what then happened?
So basically, they kept my case open for 3 months and made me do everything pretty much that you were talking about. My husband and I, they had, they drug tested us. They had to make sure that we had everything that our child needed in our home. They had, a bunch of things that we had to abide by. They did their background checks on us. They did everything that they needed to do. We had to take our son to their wellness exam once a month for 3 months. And they had to deem it that he was gaining proper weight. He was getting proper nutrition. They made me go through all of these hoops to basically continue to have the doctors ask me every time we went if we could vaccinate him, and I kindly declined. And for 3 months they did this until they closed my case and listed it as unfounded. But let me tell you, Dr. Shiva, for those 3 months, I told my husband I was so scared that they were going to try and find anything they could to take my son away from us.
Let me ask you something. What is and maybe let me bring in Pamela Olson, okay? Let me bring in Pam. Let me bring in Pam. Pam is someone involved in this. Let me see if I can bring her in. Pam, are you there? Pamela? Hello, Pamela? Pamela, you need to unmute yourself. Pam, are you there?
I am here. Hello, Dr. Shiva. How are you?
Hi, Pam. We have an audience of around 1,500, 1,600 people here live. We also have, by the way, the woman that just called in, what is your name?
My name's Janae Knopf.
Yeah, Janae Knopf. Janae Knopf just shared with us that she took her child after she had childbirth to her doctor and said she wasn't going to get vaccinated. Suddenly, the next day, someone showed up at her home, a child protective services person, interrogated her, separated her and her husband, started, like we just said, a case report, went on for 3 months, and she was basically scared as hell whether they were going to take her kids away. So, Pam, the question I have for you is, how are they even able to do this? That means, did she even have to let them into her home? Does this mean anyone can open a case at any time?
You are absolutely correct on all counts. Remember what we are talking about, the Child Welfare Services, known as CPS most commonly. Never mind all the other acronyms. We all know what we talk about when we say CPS. They absolutely are a social secular entity that believes they have the absolute right to tell you what you may and may not do with your own child. These are all seen in the welfare and institution codes of each state. If you have not yet done so, please get your SDM manual for your state. Each state has one. That is the decision-making manual for CPS. And you can type that into Google. That's for all 18,000 of you. Type into Google today, I want my state's SDM manual for CPS. In there are every single right that they are going to break, but also what they must do. If they harangued you over a vaccine, was it because you didn't want your child vaccinated at all? Or was it you wanted to splay out the vaccines, which now are 4 times even more vaccines than I would have received in my lifetime? And I'm a grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're asking me? Do you want me to answer that? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
please.
So, yeah, I just kindly told them that I didn't believe my son's immune system was strong enough yet for me to receive vaccines for him 10 days after I just had him. So that's the answer I gave to them.
And the American Pediatric Association agrees with you. So is it jaw-dropping to find out, all 18,000 of our wonderful live listening viewers? Would it shock you to know DCFS does not care about your constitutional right? They are, in fact, the state is the parent, and they will tell you what they believe you should do because you are not the proper parent. The state erroneously and unconstitutionally claims that authority over you, over a social secular. You don't have to commit a crime. You can have a neighbor who doesn't like your kids playing in the backyard call in a fake or a hoax hotline tip, and trying to get them out of your life can be a misery. So instead, I want everyone edified and educated about your rights, state to state. Yes. So do look up.
I believe that they were trying to, I believe they were trying to list it as some sort of medical neglect. And actually it was the doctor that I took him to that reported me, obviously, because that's the only person that he had saw. Yes.
Absolutely. And they will listen to medical facilities and their opinion, regardless whether the narrative is correct or not. This is the great danger within DCFS, regardless the topic.
Right. And I just would like to let you guys know real fast, because I don't know how much time is left. Anyway, I recently came across something for the Civil Rights Office in Washington, D.C., and I actually, did put in a complaint for what I experienced. I don't know whether that was the right or wrong thing to do, but I just wanted to see what my outcome is going to be, which I just sent off last week. So I explained the situation to them and provided documents to, show them exactly what I experienced.
And bravo to you. I think people I know, people who understand there's always another step and there's always a larger entity that runs a smaller entity. Bravo.
Right.
I think one of the most. I think one of the
Every
most.
single state has a DHHS. It's the second nicest building in the state next to your Capitol. They have an Office of Civil Rights. That is where you put your complaints, parents. You have any caseworker who usually only have a high school diploma or maybe an AA. They're not specific to child development, much less the proper raising of a child. And they definitely don't take into effect the variances between us all. No two homes run the exact same way, but yet both homes are loving, open, non-criminal, non-illicit drug using entities. That is 99% of all cases in CWS.
So Pamela, I think one of the things you shared was 78% were unfounded, like this case. So basically what you're saying is, I just want to get this because this is quite amazing. You're telling me that anyone, if you have a child, can knock on your door, someone can call, and I have the little flow chart here just to summarize. Someone can call child services. You have a kid, someone can show up, and if you don't understand, because you're in a fearful situation, someone knocks, you let this person in, they open up a case report, and there you go. They could take away your kid. They have a case report, and you're being watched by the state. Is that pretty much it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and fundamentally, what I want the audience to understand here is this was brought to you by the likes of Hillary Clinton. And I want everyone to understand this. So anyone who says they endorse Hillary Clinton, anyone, she's a woman who was pro-Monsanto, pro-Big Pharma, now pro-Child Protective Services, pro the government getting involved, is an absolute scumbag I'm sorry. This is disgusting. Because what you're talking about is that the state being involved in every aspect of your life.
Correct.
And the reason this has occurred is because people have been bamboozled by the liberal elite. Oh, the Kennedys, they're such nice people, right? I'm being serious. If it was, a right winger doing this, people would probably say, "Oh my God, we can't let this occur," right? If a right wing fanatic KKK Klansman said, "We want to do it," they would have been shut down. But the reason these policies get implemented is because of people like the Kennedys, because they sell it to you in a beautiful way, and because people are dumb and stupid and they get manipulated and brainwashed by the likes of the Kennedys. And this is what's going on with vaccinations right now. You have Bobby Kennedy, who's pro-vaccine, he says it. I'm fiercely pro-vaccine. I am for policies, quote unquote, which will ensure full vaccination of all Americans. Now, how much more clear has it to be, Pamela? And then he endorsed Hillary Clinton once, not twice, 3 times, and he endorsed his nephew here, his wife is starting wellness centers, which are for full vaccination. And this is why the world ends up in this fascist model. It's not because of the obvious establishment. It's because of the not so obvious establishment. And Pam, maybe you should, it'd be nice to discuss this, because this is incredible that we even got here.
Absolutely, especially without the consent of those who have children, grandchildren, aunts and uncles and grandparents also raise family children, without the consent of we the people. This was decided for us. It's absolutely unconstitutional. Further, you take someone like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, and we all understand who these people are. When she says it takes a village to raise a child, she was speaking directly to, I want to remove your children from you. When I say we are in a Fourth Reich situation, that has nothing to do with color. That has nothing to do with Germans. It is an ideology of complete totalitarianism and fascism of idea and thought, which takes away parents' First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment rights, 7th, 9th, literally, they are trampling all over us because the states claim they are the parent, not us. They're just allowing us until they find that we are doing something they don't agree with. And then the state becomes the parent. And why do they do all this? To rob our federal tax SSI, SSDI fund pot that is about to go broke, 2032 to 2035. Elizabeth Warren herself has stated this over and over and over as a means to get even more money to clean up the supposed, quote unquote, slightly dysfunctional ASFA that Bill and Hillary put in. Every single person in Washington knows about this, folks. Hear the validity of that statement. There's not one person I've spoken to in Washington, D.C. that does not know what is going on. It's just not a pressing enough of an issue because not enough Americans know what is going on and how quick and easy it is for a Harvard-trained doctor of 15 years to go through 7 years of a DCFS case. They don't care who you are. They will pick on you big and small. The minute you push back and push for your rights, you are in the battle of your life for your own child over social, secular, fascist ideas. It is the most disgusting, and America now has a dark legacy that will forever be a stain upon the soul of this nation.
Pamela, thank you.
And by the way, Dr. Shiva,
yes, I have a couple.
To give you a little something.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, by the way, I just wanted to give you guys something to laugh about. After I did decide to do all of this and they closed my case for unfounded reasons, they sent me a survey in the mail. Randomly, I was chosen out.
Wait. They sent you a what? We didn't hear you. Can you see?
They sent me a survey in the mail. I was randomly chosen out of 3,000 women, apparently in Los Angeles, to do the same thing that I do. And it was just a bunch of questions for them basically to pick my brain about the women that feel the way that I do, not vaccinating their child. So that gives them, a little bit more education, I guess, a little bit more knowledge, how they can continue to persuade us, especially ones that think like I do about not vaccinating our children. So,
well, and especially being in California, you're under Pan's edict, are you not? Yes. Yep. And for those that don't know about California, Senator Pan, he is a state senator. He put in 2016 mandatory vaccination for every single child, even a baby. A baby gets 8 different vaccinations in the first 5 minutes it's born. Yeah. It is insane.
Yeah, and I think, look, I want to emphasize this, Pam. When you look at all the conditions where we're at with this lockdown that took place, right, with the economic health, this was all done by the liberal elite.
And, absolutely. And let's not forget our few rhinos. There are a few rhinos.
Well, I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about, when I say the liberal elite, I mean the establishment Democrats, the establishment Republicans, all of them. This is no longer about Republicans versus Democrats. This is about the people losing their rights. This is about fascism. But I can't overemphasize, Pam, and everyone listening, that this is not the way this fascism is sold is by the likes of the Kennedys. That's what people need to understand. Done very well, talking I'm against big pharma. It's all this bullshit. It's done by them. And that's how it's sold. And they literally, when they saw our movement coming up bottoms up, Pam, they had to go create an alternative movement. Okay. Because our movement is bottoms up and they are Clintonites. It's my new term, Clintonites with a K. Okay. Clintonites, because it's the Kennedys and the Clintons come together and they meet, and it's all about top-down fascism. Listen, I'm going to bring someone else in. Pam, you should stay on. Someone called Abbas Comber. Let me see who this is. Someone else is joining us. Hi, Abbas. How are you? Abbas? I know you've been waiting. Hello? Hello? Are you there? Hello? Someone there? Nope, they're not there. So I'm going to remove them. Let's go to someone by the name of D. Gom. D. Gom. Hello, how are you? Hello? I'm admitting them, but they're not coming in. Okay, there you go. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Hey. Hello.
Hi, who's this? Why don't you tell us your name?
Hello?
Yes, where are you from and what's your name?
Calling from New Jersey.
Okay, so tell us what you think about this. And we have you live. There's about, I think it's growing. We have about 2,000 people right now. Go ahead.
I first dealt with socialism services back about 19 years ago because somebody called and they ended up taking my daughter for a year because of when it came down to the courts, they said me and her mother were arguing too much.
And this is common. This is very common.
And then
child neglect, domestic violence, Munchausen by proxy, non-medicalization, over-medicalization, and general abuse and neglect, meaning you're too poor and you don't live in a $2.5 million estate. You live in a regular 2-bedroom with your 2 children. It's usually single parents. It is amazing what they will open cases up. Would it shock you to hear that New Jersey is as bad as California, is as bad as Arizona, is as bad as New York, is as bad as Iowa, is as bad as Montana? Montana, of all places. This is in every state. It is insidious, and once it is in your life, 6 months and a day pays that state a full year worth of having that child, even though it's only 6 months and a day. 9 months and 2 weeks, they get a year and a half worth of payment. If it goes a full year, now they can start going for bonuses and incentives by adopting or sending your children to be adopted by a family member. There are huge money dollars here, guys. This is all about funding, which probably would make a lot of sense for those parents who have been through an unfounded case, which, believe it or not, 92% this year. We are on track for every case that is open to be found unfounded. This follow the money mentality is going to show the American people exactly what CPS is all about, because it's not about saving our children.
So Pamela, the number that you gave me for 2016 was 78%, but you're saying as of 2019, it's 92% are unfounded. So they come in, take away your kids up to a year. That's what it seems like the average is, right?
Yep.
And
it used to be 6 months and a day, but now it's a year, because I think they know this system is about to be taken down by Family First Prevention Act.
Right.
I was just going to say, I'm sorry, this is Catherine.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Pamela, can you explain to Dr. Shiva the Family First Prevention Act?
Yeah, can you explain to Pam what Catherine says? Can you explain to us the Family First Prevention Act? We have another about 9 minutes, 7:15, but go ahead, Pam.
Okay, so FFPA, we only have phase 1 out. It has already taken a huge bite out of ASFA by taking down the 15-month criterion to 18-month criterion of adopting out your child just due to how many months have gone by. That now is gone. There are now protections built into FFPA, Family First Prevention Act, that will finally call a child a human being for the first time. Children right now are chattel. They're property. Bobby Cagle in LA County calls them, quote unquote, product. Okay. Understand what you're looking at. 92% by 2020. The nationwide number is going to be 92% of all cases opened by CPS will be closed as unfounded. And we're on track to make almost over $1 trillion out of our federal taxpayer funds to go to all 50 states.
Wow. Okay, so we have someone else call. We have Mashan here, Abbas Comber. Does anyone else have a question? We have a lot of people calling in. Hi, who's that?
Hi.
Yes, what's your name?
Glennis, how are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, so what's your name, and tell us what you want to talk about.
My name is Glennis, and I actually wanted to ask you a question about eczema and psoriasis.
Yeah, so that's not what this call is about. So we want to talk about the family issue here. So you can email me at vashiva@vashiva.com. Right now, we want to focus our topic on this Mother's Day week on families being separated and what's going on with the stories. But I appreciate your call. But you can email me at vashiva@vashiva.com. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Be well. Bye-bye. Okay, anyone else have a question to Catherine or Pamela or to myself on this issue with the racket that's going on with family separation and the amount of money that's being made? Anyone else?
And if you may, while you're waiting for your next call, let me just give you a few stats. 88%, this is an FBI stat that came out in 2018. 88% of all children in foster care are sex trafficked right out of foster care.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Pam. You're saying 80, so you're saying, I think the number you gave me in Massachusetts in 2016 was 437,000 kids, right, in Massachusetts. And
that was for 2017. Yes.
Oh, okay, I have 2016. Sorry, I can correct that. And then you're saying that 80% of those kids in foster care are. Hold on, Mashan. 1 second. I'll be right there with you. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. And then you're saying that 80% of those kids are sex trafficked?
88.
Oh my God. So basically by the time they come out of those foster homes, they're damaged.
They're beyond traumatized. They're beyond damaged. They make the spirit of a child destitute the minute they enter that child's life.
Wow. Okay, let me take a call here. Hi, Mashan, do you have a question? Hello? You need to unmute yourself. Yes, do you have a question? We can't hear you. You have to unmute yourself. Hello? You have to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. What's your
Hello?
question? Yeah, what's your question?
Hi. I don't know if, am I talking to Dr. Shiva?
Yes, this is Dr. Shiva, and you have Pam Olson and Catherine Vitale. So tell us.
Hello, this is Claudia Cebollero. I'm a special education teacher. I spent over 30 years teaching in New York. I grew up in the public school system, and I taught in the public school system. And I wanted to bring out exactly what you are saying is stunningly correct. And the push on drugging our children is just horrendous. And the Board of Education is part of it. They have teachers do screenings with children. If you say you need some help or support in the classroom for a child, they automatically give teachers screenings for the teachers to fill out. And with that, it starts a ball rolling where you wind up at meetings where they wind up trying to prescribe drugs to children. And I spent most of my work as a special educator advocating for families and special ed children because they were pushing drugs on kids and addicting them, making them dependent on psych meds, which was just horrendous. I'm witness to it. I've been a whistleblower for years, and I've tried to get in touch with senators, even Senator Carlucci in the state of New York in Rockland County for years. I now live in South Carolina. I got so disgusted with the system, I left South Carolina, New York 3 years ago.
So let me ask you. So
yeah.
So the question I have for you. So you're a special ed teacher. I'm very much into process and mechanism. You're sitting there, and then you have these meetings. And
Right.
what are they? You're trying to tell me they're trying to identify kids who they can give drugs to. Is that what you're saying?
What they do is they'll sit at a meeting and they'll discuss the child as if they're just property. And I would try to advocate for the parents because they would say, well, there's something wrong with this child. We've done screenings with CHAD. CHAD is a company that puts out all these screenings that teachers would fill out. And if they connect the dots, they'll turn around, let's say the child has anxiety. And before you know it, the parents are being told that they have to go see a psychiatrist. And as soon as they go into a psychiatrist's office, the first thing they do is they drug these kids. And I've been witness to so many children on drugs in my classroom. It's just horrific.
But what you're saying is they have a screening methodology to try to.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. They're looking for business. It sounds like a sales lead system. You know, I run a business, and it looks like this is a way to find sales leads, right?
Oh, it absolutely
Right.
is.
Yes.
Medical. Would it shock either of you to hear as young as 2, 3, and 4-year-olds are on antipsychotropics in foster care because they're crying for their mother and father, and the foster provider doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I work for Head Start. I can't, wow. I do screenings for the county for children, and I can't tell you how many children I saved that they were trying to say that they were retarded or they had. I had a child who was he was born deaf, and I said, this child isn't retarded. He can't hear. There's nothing wrong with him. He needs to be tested and screened, and he had a hearing problem. He was disabled, but with that he was normal. But if I didn't step up, that child would have been drugged, and they were putting out just slapping labels on these children. I can't tell you how many parents, there's not a day that doesn't go by. I'm in the supermarket. I'm all over the place, wherever I live, and I'm speaking to parents and grandparents whose children and grandchildren have been drugged. And it's horrendous. It's just horrendous.
Thank you for being honest and coming forward. I love teachers. My eldest is a teacher. I myself am a 30-year educator as well. So is Dr. Shiva. So I know we all can say to you, I love my teachers. Yeah. Teachers are not the bad guy.
I try.
Well, thank you.
Because I became a teacher because I know
even as a child myself, I needed advocates. And parents don't know what goes on behind those walls once their children walk into the schools. And I just hope that, we got to shine a light on this, because these kids have to be protected. It's horrific, and parents have to be protected. So,
well, let me ask you both a
Dr.
question.
Shiva,
Yes.
I'm your number one fan.
Yeah, listen, this is why, bringing it home to what's going on, we have to win in Massachusetts. And I'm telling you why.
Yes.
It's not just a U.S. Senate election. This is about broadly for truth, freedom, and health. It's a local thing. It's national. It's global, because Massachusetts is a testing ground. And listen to me very carefully. Quote unquote innovation. This is where they test all their crap out. Okay.
Wow.
This is known as a mecca of medicine. When I came to Boston in 1981, I wanted to do medical school, and I was so disenchanted because I realized all of medicine was nothing to do with healing. It was treating the body as parts. That's why I went into engineering. And I remember someone telling me, "Oh, Boston is a mecca of medicine," because I'm looking out my window here. I can look over and I can see Longwood, Harvard Medical School, Boston. Every medical major, quote unquote, innovation comes out of here. And that innovation includes, and behind my house, here's McLean's, right? Which is the biggest psychiatric institution, right? They test everything here. I'm in the belly of the beast here. In the 1 mile radius between MIT and Harvard is the center of the deep state. We have to win here. And it's not just an election for U.S. Senate of Massachusetts. It's against the deepest of the states. It's a deep state.
Right.
And the Kennedys think they own it here.
Everything you say.
That's why
I studied microbiology at Stony Brook University.
Yeah.
I understand everything you're saying. I understand where you're coming from, and I'm in the trenches with you. So you've got my support for sure.
Yeah. So we have, and I'm saying this not because I'm running. It just becomes so obvious, right, that a victory here will be really a nuke to them. Because, I don't think anyone else will even talk about this. 2 days ago, I talked about organ harvesting, right? And the guy talking about it says no one wants to talk about it. And all the Congress people say, oh, yeah, we're against it. Yeah, we're against it. But no one brings it out. And I think the way we're going to win this is to talk about these issues. Yes, exactly. Catherine, you spanked your kid, okay? You have whatever issue occurred. But is that the basis for destroying the family and putting the parents under such fascist control? I don't know. That doesn't make sense, because this means that there is zero tolerance in any way. And I'm not saying I'm for punishment or anything, but there has to be a different way, because what they're doing is saying that the state can be involved in your life on any account, on any account, on any account. And it's so basically when you get married, that means there's 3 people involved in your marriage. Who the hell wants to get married? I looked at the entire marriage model. And it's basically, why would you want to get married?
A government contract.
It's a government contract.
You're inviting them into your life.
Yeah, it's the for example, marriage should be you, your whoever you love, and God. Why is there this 4th party in there? And I think this is what's happened. And again, it's interesting, Pamela and Catherine, you shared, this was brought to you by Hillary Clinton, Walter Mondale. And we have to really understand there is a division in this country. People talk about unity. You can't unify based on fascism versus freedom. There is no unity. And the fascists always, when you attack them and expose them, say, oh, you're trying to divide us. Yeah, we are trying to divide you. We don't believe in your bullshit. Okay? Excuse my language.
I totally understand. I lived in Rockland County for 29 years. I thought RFK was the man. And when I realized that he was pro-vaccine after duping all these women, because most moms don't have backgrounds like me. I have 3 college degrees. They don't really understand what the whole situation is. But he's duped so many families. I was in the trenches with kids with autism and on the spectrum, and homeschooled these kids because the school districts couldn't deal with them, and then they drugged all these children. And it was horrendous. Yeah, let me just play.
Let me just play. Wow. If people go to rfkexposed.com, let me play exactly what he says.
Minister Farrakhan has asked me to address the issue of vaccines and African American and vaccine safety. I want to start out by saying this, and I want to say it emphatically. I am pro-vaccine. I've always been fiercely pro-vaccine. I have all 6 of my children vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans.
Let me
We ought
repeat
to have
this.
policies that
Listen to
children
this.
vaccinated, and I believe that we ought to have policies that encourage full vaccination for all Americans.
Now, if you go listen to it and people saying, oh, you didn't share the whole thing, he then moves into vaccine safety, very clever, Hillary Clinton's safety. And then it's basically about the government getting involved. These people are sleaze bags. And it's incredible that no one exposed him until I got involved in this movement, because no one wants to, everyone is brainwashed by celebrities and the Kennedys. This is an actual.
Right. And they're listening to the rhetoric. He just goes on and on and on. And so you assume that he's on board with where you're coming from. He's not. He's in bed with the Clintons. It's horrendous. It's like, holy cow. And they're in bed with Bill Gates. And,
right. They basically create fictitious enemies. Right. I've been attacking all of them. And when I exposed him, they said, and then they go into derangement mode. Call me a vaccine maker. Say that I support Bill Gates because I buy software. And that's why
they didn't understand cytosol. They did not.
No, they did understand cytosol. No, they did understand cytosol.
What I'm saying is, online, I kept seeing the trolls. And they were, like they'd be attacking you, and I would explain to them, no, cytosol is not a vaccine company,
Yeah, they have paid trolls, by the way. We have found that they're paying trolls, and this is what they do. Right. So the level of fascist insidiousness, it's easy to see the Faucis, it's easy to see the Gates, but I'm saying the Clintonites, these are the real fascists. Right. And the day that we break from them, we're going to have an overnight revolution. Overnight. And they are the people that they keep stuck. And that's what I want to explain. There's no reason, Pam, that this should be $1 trillion industry. Extraordinary that it even got this big. And this is
if you want to talk about deep blue state, what is Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts constantly railing on about? How much we spend on the military. We don't spend a fraction on the military the way we spend and give our federal hard-earned, I don't know about anyone else, anyone who works, we work our fingers to the bone harder than we did back in our 80s. I'm telling you, it's harder today, even on Monday through Friday, or if you've got a rotating schedule, it's harder to make ends meet in any profession. And this woman on the phone right now, I'm so sorry I forgot her name, 3 degrees, just like I've got. And you can barely make ends meet. It's not like you're a multimillionaire. They have gained and rigged the entire system. And what makes me the sickest of all, CPS is the bargain basement of government. It's common law, abnormality law.
It is. They don't know
and this is what they're ruling us with.
They don't know anything about child development at all. Board of Education knows nothing about child development.
Well, it's like allowing bureaucrats to run this COVID farce right now. Why don't we have medical doctors like the good Dr. Shiva here and Dr. Buttar, who absolutely.
Well, wait a minute. Pam, Buttar. Wait, Pam. I'm not going to give Buttar is with the Clintons. He said he supports RFK. He's a scam guy who was brought in by Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy and the Clintons created Buttar and this Miskovitz thing. Okay, they have created this.
Clarifying.
Yeah. And he has said, I am. So I'm not going to give that numbskull a platform. Okay. When I came out with Fire Fauci, they literally, what the not so obvious establishment does, they literally take your material. Okay. They plagiarize it. They use the rhetoric.
Right.
So everyone here should recognize this guy butt ass is what I call him. Okay. Because of the names that he's called me. And he is Kennedy's left nut. And he's got the other woman at his right nut. Okay. They literally, the Kennedys and the deep state establishment literally hijacks bottoms up movements. They did this in the civil rights movement. You had Malcolm X, you had people coming bottoms up. They created Martin Luther King. Bobby Kennedy Sr. created Martin Luther King, pushed him on the masses. And then what they did was they took advantage of black people. Nothing changed after civil rights. They said, don't use the N-word. They created affirmative action, which pitted poor blacks against poor whites. The average net worth of a black person in Boston is $8. The average net worth of a white liberal elite, like the Kerrys and the Kennedys in Boston, is $250,000. Okay? So and I'm telling you, Pam, you need to get this.
Dr. Shiva.
No, let me finish. Let me finish. No, let me finish. People need to get this. We're not going to have any change in this world at all until people recognize not the obvious establishment, but the not so obvious establishment and the way that they work. Okay?
I completely get it. Believe me.
Because this is the way that they keep people in bondage. Let me, anyway, let's couple of other people coming, and let me give, and then we're going to wrap it up. Hold on. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Be well. Yep. Let me bring the next person in. Who do we have here? Let's see. Yep. So we have 909. I'm going to bring it all. Hello. How are you? Hello.
Hi, good. How are you?
Good. How are you? Where are you from? Can you ask your question or your comment? Go ahead.
Hi, it's Jamie Juarez. I'm from Los Angeles, California.
Nice to have you.
I work for a law firm, and I'm a clinician, and we specialize in dependency court and some of the corruption that goes on here in Los Angeles. And my question is, we're helping a woman right now, Cynthia Absug in Colorado, who's been falsely accused of committing a crime conspiring with Q after her children were taken by Department of Children and Family Services, accusing her of fictitious disorder, Munchausen's by proxy.
Mhm.
And even though there's a lot of lawyers involved and some journalists, we're having a very hard time having this particular case see some justice. We've reached out to the FBI, we've talked to local politicians, and we're hitting a dead end. So we're hoping that maybe you have some suggestions.
I would go directly to the Office of Civil Rights, which is housed within DHHS. There are 2 buildings for DHHS in California. One is in Sacramento, right next to the Capitol, and the second is in your county of Los Angeles. You go in as an attorney or as a JA and state that there is an issue. They will take your complaint, and then you take that complaint and go right to the FBI or the OIG of your state, the Office of the Inspector General.
Okay, great. Now this case is in Colorado, so is it the same process? We should contact the Office of Civil Rights there.
Yes, ma'am. And that case, if any case should be shown right now, this is one of those absolute fictitious cases that should be shown as unfounded and already taken down. The particulars in that case absolutely make my stomach turn. It is one of the best examples of the deviance and malfeasance and dereliction of duty and judicial malfeasance that I've ever read.
Okay, so you are familiar with the case that we're helping
Yes.
out with, Cynthia? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's pretty atrocious.
It really is. But it's because she also knows her rights and she stood up to them. They absolutely hate it. They want you to comply, comply, comply. Why? Follow the money.
Yeah, she was definitely, calling them out. Not only Colorado, but her case had come over. She had trouble in Broward County, Florida, who we know has had some corruption within their departments, their sheriff departments. And so she went over to Colorado and she's, retaliated against with the school district, her asserting her rights in the IEPs, and then of course with her other daughter. And so it's pretty sad what's going on. She's staying strong. I talked to her this morning. She's holding up her hopes, but it's definitely a case of retaliation and a woman that has been trying to point out the human trafficking issue, not only of her own children, but the country at large. And the retaliation is pretty apparent in this case.
Absolutely. And the best advice I can give you as an advocate doing this for almost 4 years, find the perjury and prove it in court.
Great. Thank you.
Now, are you talking about criminal court or are you talking about in the dependency court? Because she's facing
In JDC court, go ahead and find the perjury and prove it with exculpatory evidence that it's false. That way you can file a federal claim for fraud upon the court to start off your federal civil rights case.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you, Dr. Shiva.
Thanks, Jamie. Be well. Thank you. So
Okay, bye-bye.
thanks, Pam. Let's see who else is. I think we have, I'm going to take, there's a couple of people waiting here. I'm just going to bring them all in and then I'm going to, because they've been waiting. Hi, we have a bunch of people here. Why don't each one of you ask your comment or your question one at a time? Let me start with the 403 number. Hello? Oh, someone's just, hi, the number 205, do you want to make a comment? 561? Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Hi, this is Terry LaPointe, and I was with medicalkidnap.com for more than 4 years investigating and researching these stories. And what I learned absolutely horrified me. Someone had tagged me, and I kind of came in late, but I was really excited to see you addressing some of these issues. I've investigated hundreds of stories like Cynthia Absug's. I've followed that story, and then there are so many stories just like this all over the country. And I came into this thinking that Child Protective Services was there to protect children and to deal with kids who had awful parents. And I found out that nothing was further from the truth. So actually, it was Boston, Massachusetts. The Jennifer Pelletier case was the first case that I was following as a mom, as a citizen, just paying attention. And then I got involved and was asked to start investigating these stories. So I appreciate you covering this. And if there's anything that I can help with, let me know.
Well, one of the main things is, I think you brought up the Jennifer Pelletier case. People need to understand, look, the revolution took place in Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
Massachusetts is known to be the center of innovation, right? MIT, all these.
Mm-hmm.
But it has become not the center of innovation. It's become the deep state of Babylon here. It is where they come up with fascist innovation. They figure out how much they can impose on people. This is where those kinds of innovations are tested, how much vaccinations they can do. And they learn how to do it through the not so obvious establishment. I cannot, the Elizabeth Warrens who say that she cares about, fighting the big banks. Well, what did they create? They created Dodd-Frank, which destroyed destroyed small banks. Everything they do is regulatory framework top down, with the veneer of we're going to help you, okay? And they always find their minions. Right now in the vaccine movement, they have created this guy Buttass and Miskovitz. I'm telling you, these people came out of nowhere, and they created them to deviate people away back into the establishment. They're both Clinton supporters, big-time Clintonites, okay? And you have to get this, because these people are very sophisticated. They never expect people to come bottoms up and take them out. That is why what we're doing in Massachusetts is the right innovation. So when you talk about the Jennifer Pelletier case, what they did there was a testing ground. They test stuff out here. That's why the Kennedys are here. The Kennedys are institutionalized, not so obvious establishment deep state. What I mean by that is they frame them as people with supporting the blacks and the whites, supposedly, right? With their little shirt cuffs, cuffed up halfway. You know what I'm talking about, right? Looking out the window, supposedly looking into the future. It's all bullshit. That's where it's done. Massachusetts is where they create the deep state. And they create the not so obvious establishment.
I have noticed in my research dealing with adult protective services, guardianship abuse, medical kidnapping, different things, so many things all go back to Boston. It's uncanny.
All of it.
Unbelievable. It's just amazing how much goes back to Boston. There's also, like I said, the guardianship abuse. I did a series of like 3 or 4 stories just in a 3 or 4 month period where they were killing senior citizens, taking guardianship of them fraudulently and drugging them and taking them away from their families. But the thing is, it's not just, it starts there. A lot connects to Harvard and Boston and all that, but it's gone all throughout the country.
But this is
and it's permeated the whole entire country.
But I'm telling you, where did Jeffrey Epstein have an office at?
He had one at Harvard, did he?
Yes,
he not?
Yes. And after he was convicted, they gave it to him. After he was convicted, the president of MIT took more money. And if you connect all of this to the fact that he was a child trafficker, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all connected.
Look at who was in his Rolodex. The Kennedys were in his Rolodex. Okay? So when you start looking at this, the Clintons were down at his island. And people need to wake up. They need to really wake up, and they need to understand that the Clintonites, the Kennedys, the liberal elite are the people who sell. It's like they sell you sugar-coated candy and then people swallow it. And until people don't get this, we will have human suffering taking place over and over and over again. And they have their minions. And they literally steal. I mean, when I did the Fire Fauci campaign, Buttass called me up, okay? And he literally started his own thing. And he said, I got more views than you. He's promoted. He was a doctor who was under medical all sorts of malpractice. They create these people. Okay. And this is a phenomenon. Look, there's physics to political movements. And if people understand the physics, we'll win. But if you think the not so obvious establishment is out there for you, you will lose, lose, lose.
Right.
And that is what's going on. It's unbelievable. I'm looking at the numbers here. 1.2 trillion, 50% more than the defense budget of the United States. Now, how did we get here? Well, you look back, it started in, I think, 1997. Well, that's almost 23 years ago. Okay, is that right?
It goes so much further back, though. I did a deep dive into the child abuse pediatricians in that field because they're in the hospitals and they're the ones accusing parents of Munchausen syndrome by proxy or accusing them of abuse when there is no abuse. And they're not really experts in anything. And I did a deep dive into their history that goes back 100 years. This has been building up, and it started in Boston. And I did there's a lot of information about the history of these child abuse pediatricians, but they are the influence of Child Protective Services. They are the ones that Child Protective Services can go to if a parent decides they don't want to vaccinate, or if they're quote causing trouble or disagree with the doctor. Then the hospital just brings in the child abuse pediatrician to say, hey, this is abuse, and nobody argues with that. And then they've got another child that they can use for the human trafficking or the sex trafficking. Y'all were talking about the sex trafficking earlier, and I didn't do the numbers as far as statistics, but I would say at least 75 to 80% of the older kids that I talked to, that I interviewed, that I've dealt with, that went into the foster care system were molested in foster care, even though none of them had been molested in their own homes. And we know there are statistics, there's federal data that shows that children in foster care are at least 6 times more likely to be raped, abused, molested, or killed in foster care than even if you left them in their own home, even if that home was a troubled home.
Yeah, so I think, Pam, you were saying it's 88% when they get to foster care?
The FBI numbers for 2018, it is confirmed at a conservative 88% are child.
I absolutely believe that just from the people that I've talked to.
Yep.
Easily.
Yep.
Wow.
And I followed your deep dive. So, and Terry.
So let me. There's one other.
Follow her on Twitter. Follow her on Facebook. She is absolutely beyond my equal. I would consider her my better aunt.
Oh my.
So one second, everyone. One second. I want to just give fairness to time, but thank you very much. I'm going to bring someone else in, but thank you. So there's 2 other people
You're
on
so
the.
welcome.
Thank you, B. Well, there's 2 other people on the call from 646
This is
and.
Ms. Sean Bain. Thank you for unmuting me, and thank you, Dr. Shiva,
Yes.
for having this discussion. I appreciate it. I am a Black woman with 6 children, and I have to reiterate that because we've been fighting for 15, 20 years, Child Protective Services in New York City. So when you kept saying Massachusetts, I was like, no, it's New York City. The Clintons have an office on 125th Street, where one of the main quarters, well, it's ACS, Agency for Child Protective Services, which is nationally CPS. In 2003, they took my children. They came to my house with the police. And in 2002, I refused to vaccinate my 1-year-old daughter. And the hospitals called the social worker, and they tried to intimidate you, to scare you to get the vaccines. I did vaccine because they made me feel such a bad parent. But my daughter motor skills slowed down, and so what I did, I called the commissioner to complain. The commissioner did a home visit, and they gave my daughter therapy because she was messed up from the vaccine. So after that, they have a course where they tell parents to take a course, you know, not to say that you did anything wrong, but to give you help and services you need. So I did that. And the next day, I'm getting a knock at the door. After that, the school called for my son and said, oh, my son is acting up. So they wanted to give him psychotropic drugs, and I said no to that. So it's one thing after the other, so they keep building. It's like your family becomes targeted. You ever heard of targeted individuals? Yes, targeted families are real. So any little thing you do or here comes ACS. Do you not know, I did spank my daughter at the age of 15 because she was out with some kids who she met were from foster care, and she scratched herself on her arm. She went to school. Here goes another report. Oh, with the scratch face, you spanked your child? Yes, I did spank my child because she was out of order. But she scratched herself. Got a letter from the doctor's office. Here come ACS. Come to the door, said my daughter needs help. Okay, we'll get her out. Next 2 days, I came with the police to take all my children, but did not take my older daughter. Not only that, they promised my son some Jordan sneakers. And my son is like, you promised me you're going to buy me some Jordan sneakers. So I'm saying the viciousness, and ever since then, from 2002, I've been fighting. Another thing, Dr. Shiva, landlords, gentrification, they're using ACS now as a weapon. Failure to provide stability, housing, they set you up to use your placement, you lose programs. I'm seeing this all the time. You call on your landlord because of violations in apartments, which they did that to me too. I called HPB because there was no heat. I had to buy a heater. I rented the house. The rent was paid. The landlord didn't want to do no repairs. Do you know? Guess who showed up on my door? Not ACS. And I put that on film too. They're telling me about the violations in my home. I said, well, are you HPB? Are you going to go to housing court to make the corrections? And they send me a notice to come to their office. So I'm saying this thing, when it goes, and when you become a fighter, because I became an advocate under National Action Network, which is Al Sharpton, when you become a fighter, so I've been in the courtroom day and night, birthdays, holidays for myself, for other parents, they will not leave you alone. So it becomes like a lifetime movement. I can tell you stories after stories.
So anyway,
AOG.
Yeah. So
I did go to the vice president. I wanted to let Pam know. I did write a letter. I did special reports. My kids did press conferences. Guess what? Didn't go anywhere.
Mashawn, listen. Thank you for sharing this. The issue is that Al Sharpton, in many ways, is also sold out people. Okay,
yes, he is.
He's a sellout.
Yes,
he's a Tom.
At the time, I didn't know. You need help in the community, so you say,
right.
Well, go to shopping. Guess
yeah,
what?
yeah, but
I spoke on it. I did presentation at the network.
Right.
I don't want to say this, but I saw a check pass somebody's hand, and after that, they was questioning me about what I was testifying about, and I was shut down. My committee.
Mashawn, listen.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is, and I want to wrap this up because I think first of all, Pam and Catherine and everyone who's called in, thank you. This issue, that the fact that it's $1 trillion or 1 point is not known broadly. I didn't know about this. Okay. And the fact is, this is going to become one of the central parts of my campaign. And let me tell you why. Our campaign is about eliminating this top-down model. When you look at the Al Sharptons, when you look at the Kennedys, when you look at the Clintons, when you look at the Elizabeth Warrens and Bernie Sanders, these people are the real evil. Look, the clear evil is the deep state establishment. But these people are created by the deep state establishment, so they sucker you in, Mashawn. So you put your faith in an Al Sharpton. So you put your faith in a Kennedy, okay? They are the wings of the establishment. Is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
I hope this is clear because this is the physics of this. I'm a scientist. I'm a systems guy. And if people, let me just finish. If people do not, look, 1 second, let me finish this. I want everyone to understand this because everyone who gives, oh, well, Bobby Kennedy, you know, his father got shot, his uncle got shot. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And this is a way they keep people in bondage. The Al Sharptons, similarly on the white side in Massachusetts, you have talk show hosts. So we have to recognize that anyone in power like this who's been there a long time is 99% chance a scumbag. Okay? And it's about time people break from this. And we have to build a bottoms up movement. Nothing is going to come from legislators, Pam, Mashawn, anyone. Nothing.
That's all.
And if people have faith, that's why.
And the children are roaming the streets. Nobody's doing nothing. The police department says we see the foster care roaming the children roaming the streets all the time.
Well, Mashawn, when you look at this model, when I look at it, look, I create businesses, right? I create legitimate businesses. This is a $1.2 trillion industry. 1.2 trillion. 50% more than the defense budget. And then top of it, you have child trafficking with the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Clintons and the Kennedys and all these people who participate in some form or another. Okay. This none of this is going to change unless we go bottoms up. And the sooner,
Dr. Shiva, how do we get protected though? Because there's many other families who tried to speak out. Oh my goodness.
Well, Mashawn,
this is to scare them to death.
Mashawn, it's not going to happen until we recognize that we need to create a movement. And that movement is not the Al Sharptons. It's people like me. It's people like you. A guy like me does not need to run for U.S. Senate. I don't need to do this. Okay? And the election in Massachusetts.
We appreciate the knowledge, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying the knowledge here is to understand it's physics. E equals MC squared. Okay? F equals force. These are physical laws. And one of the physical laws is the Al Sharptons are the scumbags. The Kennedys are the scumbags. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Let me tell you, people are waking up and they're talking all over the country. They're tired.
Right, but you need to understand.
They're waking up all over the world.
Mashawn, when people come bottoms up, like with Truth, Freedom, and Health, a guy like me, it's the Kennedys who are my enemies. They're the ones who'll try to do character assassination. They're the ones that they use. And we need a movement to protect its true leaders, its revolutionary leaders like myself and you and others. This needs to be understood. If this principle is understood, they're done. I'm telling you. They're over. The problem is that people get manipulated by the not so obvious establishment. And that is why I'm running for United States Senate. And all of you need to get behind this campaign, because it's not a campaign to win a Senate election. It's a campaign to enlighten people that it's not the establishment alone. It's the not so obvious establishment. It's a Gandhi in India who was used by the British to manipulate people, telling people to get their asses whooped. That's bullshit. Nonviolence. It's nonsense.
Right.
I mean, what rightful person would say, "Oh yeah, you hit me with the head on, hit me again"? This isn't bullshit, okay? And people forget.
I just wanted to add: once the children get into their care, they can do anything they want with their children. So if you was against vaccines, they will vaccinate the hell out of your children. And when children act up, they also put them in psychiatric.
Mashawn, we know all this. We need to put now our energy into what is to be done. Okay? We know the evils of the establishment, but what needs to happen is what is to be done? Let me tell you what is to be done. People need to wake up and realize that the revolution is going to be bottoms up. You cannot look to your leaders top down. You cannot. And if you keep doing that, we're going to lose. And you must protect your leaders who are coming bottoms up like myself. And we must do it ferociously, like warriors. Yeah.
That's right.
Because a guy like me doesn't need to do this with the 4 degrees from MIT, everything I've done. But I'm one of you. I came from nothing. And I'm doing this because I hate these people. And I'm doing it with a righteous anger. And it's time that we all recognize that. And on social media, we need digital warriors. We need to recognize that the movement is not going to win as long as we give one little inch, one little quote unquote hope. The bullshit Obama hope, okay? We're not going to give any hope to these people. And when enough of us realize that, we don't need a lot of people, by the way. We don't need a lot of people. But if everyone on this phone call, the 2,000 people get it, it's over for them. And I want to end with this. If you look at the Vietnam War, if you really look at it, when the Vietnam War started, first there was this movement against the war, right? The anti-war movement. And many people said, oh my God, the Democrats, they're going to stop the war, knowing that Barry Goldwater was a rabid lunatic who wanted to support the war, right? So
Yeah.
People kept hanging on to the left wing of the Democratic Party. Obviously the establishment wanted it. Then they hung on. Then they thought, oh, Lyndon Johnson is going to stop the war. Well, if you go look at the 1968 Democratic Convention, it was a bombing of Cambodia taking place. He had machine guns on the stage of the Democratic Convention because there were massive protests. He unleashed the police to beat the hell out of these youth. Okay? After that beating on the head is when people said, oh, maybe the Democrats are not on our side. You see what I'm saying? And then when they broke with the left wing of the Democratic Party, the Bernie Sanders, the Elizabeth Warren, the Kennedys, that's when the war ended in 24 months. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? You got to get this. It is
Shiva,
yeah. Yep.
this is going around all over the world. It's amazing. And you said something very interesting just now, and you said it doesn't have to be a ton of people. It's got to be a few people that start opening people's eyes. And I'd like to thank you for prying people's eyes open, because we go through worlds with our eyes shut all the time.
Yeah, and the eyes that need to be opened. Look, I love the, I love the, the story of Christ. But if you look at the story of Christ, it wasn't the Romans who finally betrayed him, right? Who was it? Who betrayed?
The Pharisees.
Yeah, but it was the Pharisees and the Sadducees and his, Judas, who spoke all the rhetoric, right?
Yep.
And that's who the Kennedys are. And I'm telling you, people need to wake up to this.
Don't forget the religious system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the churches and
the churches.
And all of that.
The only people you can trust are working people, bottoms up. Go look at what does this person do? Are they a plumber? Oh, they're an electrician. They're a nurse. They're an engineer. They're an entrepreneur. They make something. Do not trust the preachers. Do not trust the talking heads. Do not trust the lawyers. Do not trust the politicians. And if you do, you're very naive and you're basically going to suffer. This suffering.
Well, you're creating a problem in the world for everybody else.
Yeah. Yep.
And folks, if I can just interject this, I'm an Adams. My family came here from England and settled in Massachusetts. John Adams, the founding father, I am directly related to through his son, John Quincy. I have more love for a state I've never even visited. I hold Massachusetts because everything Dr. Shiva has said about Massachusetts absolutely is correct. And look what they've turned that into. Instead of John Adams, you now have Elizabeth Warren.
Wow.
Well, you have Joe Kennedy running here. You have Ted Kennedy. Right. Let's not forget the legacy of these people. You have someone who got away with murdering a woman. Okay? And Joe Kennedy is running here. He's got a $51 million trust fund as a 39-year-old kid. He didn't earn that. He didn't earn it. And he wants mandatory vaccinations, and Robert Kennedy endorsed him and raised money for him. You guys see what I'm saying? It is not the obvious.
He's still getting money sent to his trust fund because I think that's how all these guys work.
Yep. But the bottom line, I think, is that when you look at this, I think in closing, when you look at what Pam and Catherine, thanks so much. You've been on the phone, have been enlightening me on. You're looking at an industry that is 50% bigger than the defense budget of the United States. And this was created by the liberal elite, draconianized by Hillary Clinton, who was endorsed by Robert Kennedy. And I hope people are waking up to this, because we are our worst enemies if we don't get our head out of you-know-what and realize that it's the not so obvious establishment. Words and rhetoric mean nothing. Their diplomacy means nothing. And remember, they always attack guys like me because of my tone, okay? And they attack you because you get angry. Well, if you're not angry, then you're probably on weed, okay? You're probably on some depressants, and then something's wrong. You should be angry. People should be raising hell, and that's why I'm saying our election for U.S. Senate in Massachusetts is a profound movement. It's gone global. We must win here. So everyone here recognize. What's that?
I said, you better get in.
Not I better get in. You better make sure I get in.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm from Canada. I can't vote for you.
No. But what you can do is everyone on this call probably knows either a friend or a friend's friend who knows someone in Massachusetts. I guarantee you it's 2 degrees of freedom. Everyone listening. Yeah, this is
Dr. Shiva, I'm from the city. I could come. Well, I mean, I could we could get a group to even come to Massachusetts.
You should look. There's a lot of black folks in Massachusetts who've been bamboozled by the Democratic Party. And by the way, I don't care about the Republican Party. They hate me also. But it's time we get people off the freaking plantation. Okay, they're on the plantation of the top-down movement, which is the Kennedys and the GOP establishment. All of them. It's going to be us. So we need to get, minorities, poor whites, veterans, recognizing that it's people like us who are going to help them. The veterans and the blacks and the minorities get used. They get used as photo opportunities for the Kennedys. Okay? Nice black and white photos, right? With some music in the background, looking out into some distance. It's all total BS. Okay? So anyway, I want to thank everyone. Pam, thank you so much. Catherine, thank you so much. I feel so bad for Catherine, the hell that you've gone through. Parents, stuff happens in families, and this is what the establishment does. They take advantage of people. They want the state involved, and I think we need to go recognize that we need to decentralize family care. It can't be socialized top down. Medicine can't be socialized. We're going to do a whole thing on homeschooling. Education can't be socialized. All of it is becoming centralized. That's what they want. So anyway, everyone, in closing, people should know that you have a fighter in me. You have all these people out there. We're all fighters. And it's time we get our head out of you-know-what and recognize that we must break from the not-so-obvious establishment. And we must vigorously do it. We must expose them. When Bobby Kennedy, when I figured out what he was about, I went after him and people said, you're dividing the movement. No, I'm dividing truth from lies. And then what did he do? Called me total Hitler-type lies. Called me a vaccine maker. Said I have a partnership with Bill Gates and I get money from the Clintons. These people are total, like Aldous Huxley-type liars. So I've sued him for $95 million. And I'm going to sue other people who keep repeating his stuff. And the money that I get, I'm not going to take a penny. We're going to put it into health and wellness centers in underdeveloped neighborhoods or underrepresented neighborhoods or underserved neighborhoods to teach people how to boost the immune system. That's what this is about. Massachusetts is a center of the deep state. Our campaign is to nuke the deep state right here. And everyone needs to help. We must nuke the deep state right in Massachusetts. That's what this election's about. It's not about just winning a stupid Senate seat. It's way beyond that. I hope people get that. This is not about winning some dumb Senate seat, okay? It's about having a guy like me in the Senate for the next 6 years and raising hell and hell and hell with all of you behind me. Imagine all of you being in the Senate office with me for the next 7 years and going after these people. 6 years. Imagine what we could do, okay?
That's right.
So everyone go to Shiva for Senate, support the campaign. If you go there, you can go right into the volunteer section. Anyone here, go tell your friends. We want to have at least 10,000 lawn signs. We give them away. Go to pick up a lawn sign. I'm showing it here. There's about 40 different locations. We have amazing volunteers here. We must win this election. This is like live or die. That's the way we got to win this. We must win this. Donate to the campaign. If you can't afford 25, afford 5 or 10, get the book System and Revolution. Arm yourself with knowledge. We must win this. Anyway, thank you, everyone. This is Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. Thank you, Pam. Thank you all. Thank you for all the people called in. Let's win this. And we're not going to win this without being ferocious warriors. Not 1 inch to the not so obvious establishment. Not 1 inch. Expose, expose, expose them. Okay? Everyone promise? All right. Thank you. Be well. Thank you, everyone. Be well. Be the light. Let's go get them. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.